bit about Steve. We're very grateful to have Steve. Steve has enabled us to raise about $5,000, both Beth and I, for the Entrepreneurial Center for Innovation and Development. And Beth and I started this center about 3.5, 4 years ago with the vision of inspiring and encouraging entrepreneurship in the region. And the ultimate vision was really to be able to bring in speakers like Mr. Epner. We brought in Sue Hawks last year, and those have all been possible by a number of sponsors. And I want to read you so you know some of the area businesses who helped us. Aspires Grandview, Black River Crossing Bed and Breakfast, Burton Industries, Coleman Engineering, Extreme Tool, GCC Foundation, the college in general for allowing Beth and I to actually spend some of our time doing this. Jackworth Fabric Products, Keweenaw Land Association, Snow County Contracting, River Valley Bank. And there's a couple of other smaller sponsors, but between all of these sponsors, we've literally gotten checks of upwards of about $5,000, and we're grateful for them. And most of that is profit. Steve actually has been gracious enough to charge us nothing. We flew him up here. He's staying at their Black River Crossing B&B as a comp, and we're just grateful for the support. And for him doing what I've heard is just 2 phenomenal programs so far. He did one for the Idea Bounce last night, which we had about, including the audience, about 40, and then we had about the same for the community event. And so we were grateful for that in spite of the weather. So we had a good turnout, and this afternoon he did an unbelievable job with the business community, which really was each of these companies were able to send a handful or 2 of their employees in return for making a donation to our program. So what I've asked Steve to do, and Steve is a faculty member at St. Louis University in Entrepreneurship and Innovation, and he has been wildly successful in business. He has opened 3 businesses. He currently owns his own business, and after retirement, he started those businesses. So he's an interesting person. He's an interesting individual, and I think for the next 15 minutes he's going to engage you in just some things to help wrap the semester up, get you thinking a little bit more, and I think that's kind of probably the best way to end the meeting, is sort of ending on a positive note, some good energy, let all of you get out there and catch up on what you need to catch up on, and go from there. So when he's done, we're done. He'll sign your books, he'll chat with people a little bit longer, and that's kind of one of the reasons I'm going to end a little early in case people do want to hang out. If you have to run, I completely understand. So with that, again, I appreciate your hard work this semester. I appreciate your understanding, and there being so many things going on, and sometimes it's hard to catch me or chase me down, but you guys do awesome work, so thank you. So with that being said, Steve Epner. Thanks, guys.
Wow, 15 minutes to cover everything I've learned in the last 45 years. So we're going to make this quick and easy. I'm glad to see students aren't the only ones who like to sit in the back of the class. You would think that you were talking to other educators. They would have come up just so they know how it feels to have nobody near you. It's like, do you smell? Did you use mouthwash today? So I'm going to just try and tell you a few of the things I do. I didn't start out in education. I did sell a business. I sold my last big business in 2005. I tried to retire. My wife caught me putting the spice rack in alphabetical order, and that was the end of staying at home. She gave me a little card that her mother had actually found. It said, "We got married for better, for worse, not for lunch." So I was told to leave the house. I went back to school. I did another degree. I started 3 more businesses. As Ken was saying, I teach at St. Louis University in the graduate MBA program. I teach at Webster University in the undergraduate business program. And I travel around the country doing other lectures just for fun. So I stay pretty busy, and I stay out of the house, which keeps my wife sane and me allowed to live there. This book, this was my, I think it's 8th or 9th book, I don't even count anymore. I came up through the technical ranks, and so I've written a bunch of bestsellers like Electronic Commerce for Distribution Channels. If you're not in the field, you would never read it. But I had been encouraged to try and take what I've learned through 40 years of working with businesses and put it in a book, so that's what you got, simplify everything. Maybe during the summer, if you get a chance, read some of it, read some of the stories. Hopefully you'll find it enjoyable. There's some fun stuff. I am available. If you like something in here, call me. I'm glad to talk to you about it. I'm glad to help. Ken wanted to tell you a little bit about some of the teaching aids. I'll have these puzzles up front. You can each pick one of these up. We torture people with this. This is a MBA on a coaster. There are only 4 words. I don't have time to go through the details because I'm standing between you and the end of the year, I think. So it's like, whoa, you got to get out of here. But the 4 words you need to solve any business problem are diagnose, because you got to make sure you're working on a real problem instead of the symptom of a problem. There's focus, because most small companies don't have the energy to work on more than 1 or 2 special projects at a time. They'll never get them done. There's solve, because you got to do creative problem solving. You can't use the same level of intelligence that created the problem to solve it. You're not going anywhere. And the last word is manage, because no matter how many good ideas you have, if you don't work them to success, you're going nowhere. We call this a puzzle because there's a puzzle in here. For some of you who were able to attend one of the programs or the others, most people will punch the puzzle out like this because they're afraid they can't put it together, and so they want to keep the pieces together. And the first thing I do is I make everybody separate the pieces, and then we stir them all up. Well, that scares everyone, but we talk about, we do that because we're afraid to be wrong. We do that because we have learned in school that if you take a chance and you come up with the wrong answer, that's bad. And as I read in an article years ago, we send our students to school as question marks. We graduate them as periods. We beat the creativity out of them. I'm all about adding that creativity back in. So I take this puzzle and I say, look, don't be afraid of being wrong. You can put it together, and if you don't get it right the first time, that's okay. But let me tell you one special thing. If I tell you to assemble the puzzle, most people say, first thing Steve said was diagnose, so that must go in the upper left-hand corner. As soon as you do that, you're doomed to failure, and you're doomed to failure because of this piece, the framework. As long as you try to solve tomorrow's puzzle in yesterday's framework, the best you can do is get yesterday's answer. And there's a puzzle up here for each of you to take home with you. The goal is you take the puzzle apart, and instead of putting together a coaster like everybody else, you put together what I call cubes of competitive advantage. And I use this to teach businesses that everybody in your industry is dealing with the same pieces of the same puzzle. The difference between the winners and the losers are not necessarily losers, but the guys who don't go anywhere. Most people are putting together coasters. If you can find the cubes, you can lead your industry. And that's what the fun thing is, and that's the exercises that we've been through. When I teach all of my students, when we give them their textbooks, their first assignment is they must find something that's wrong in every chapter. It scares the living daylights out. Because they've been told all their college career, well, you read the book because it's right. This is going to teach you how to do it right. And I have to convince them, this is only going to teach you one person's feelings, one person's ideas, one person's thought process, and it's not necessarily right. You can disagree. Matter of fact, if you don't disagree, you're going to fail the class. And every student must disagree with me and call me on something I said at least once during the semester, or they can't get an A. And I say some outrageous things just to get kids to call me on it. And they're terrified. They're terrified. But you've got to do that, because once their brain is open, once they can start thinking, once they get out of the paradigms, they can really do amazing things. Now, you all know what paradigms are, right? Do you believe how strong paradigms are? You know, this group's sort of falling asleep. Do you mind if I give them a quiz?
No, give me a quiz.
Okay, we're going to try a quiz. We're going to pretend you're in class for a second. Simple quiz. I want everybody to shout out the answers to a couple simple questions. What shape is a stop sign?
Not loudly though,
What
'cause I was afraid I was
shape
wrong.
is a stop sign? That's a little better. We'll try it. We'll make the next question real easy so you can shout even louder. What color is a stop sign?
Red and white.
What shape is a yield sign?
Triangle.
What color is a yield sign?
Yellow and black.
Oh, it's white.
No. Yield signs are red and white. The The last yellow yield sign was removed from American roads in 1974.
I don't know if that's true up here.
I haven't inquired.
I think you can still find
I
yellow
wanna
ones
tell
up
you,
here.
I was just over at Coleman Engineering. I gave them the same quiz at lunch. They said the reason they were late getting to the meeting today is they've been driving around the city looking for the goddamn yellow yield sign. There aren't any. But the paradigm that you learn to drive with a yellow yield sign is so solid in your brain that even though you haven't seen one for almost 40 years, you believe that yield signs are yellow. That's what we got to break down in our students. That's my whole goal in class. The triangle is right, but they're red and white. They were changed. You can look it up on Google. It'll tell you the law was passed in 72.
Well, then it's right.
Yeah, and then it's got to be right. By the way, I do not allow Wikipedia to be a resource. That's a good place to start because you can get some, reference material there, and you can find citations. But you got to go to the original citation if you're going to use it in my class. But I also do, I think the proper term now is an inverse classroom. I didn't even know I did an inverse classroom. First of all, I don't allow any PowerPoint in my classroom. My kids have seen, it drives everybody nuts. So what I do is I tell the students up front, you've got to read all of the assignments. If you want me to lecture from the book, buy the book on tape. I'm not going to do that. I am not going to crack the book at all. But what we do in class is we do a lot of experiential learning. So I give them assignments from real life businesses. I bring in people who have businesses and have problems, and we sit and break the class into small groups, and we work on real problems. And then they feed the problems back to the business owners and get their feedback of what they think of what the kids have done. All of a sudden, learning is no longer memorization. It's how do I think? How do I process data? How can I do something to help this guy at the front of the class do better? I also have a project, and you're welcome to steal this. It's a great idea. Every one of my MBA students, I teach corporate entrepreneurship. So this is in the night school, and by the way, I get them from 6 o'clock until 9:30, okay? So I have to keep them awake, so I cannot do lectures. They will be sound asleep quickly. But I require each one of them to come up with a project during the semester that will earn their employer at least what they're paying in tuition, which is about $50,000 a year. The students come in at the beginning of the semester and they're terrified by the project. I hear things, well, I'm just an engineer and I'm taking this course because I got to. You've all heard some excuse like that. By the end of the semester, everybody comes up with a project. I can't talk about most of them because we sign NDAs so that the students can bring in real projects from work, but we've had people take a manufacturing process that uses lots of water. They reduce the water usage by 20% without impacting the final product. Big, big money for their employer. It actually earned about 10 times what they were supposed to, and they are now on a fast track. I had another young man, he's come up with an invention. He works in a company, I can't even tell you about this because they're patenting it right now. He came up with an idea, it's been tested in small models. It's working so well, the company is now funding, having it patented. They're going to do some research. It could turn an industry around. All of it just because we gave students a chance to think, and instead of telling them you got to memorize what's in the book, we said, tell us what you would like to do different. How can we make life better and different? How can we excel? And I want to tell you, my experience with grad students has been absolutely amazing. So, without spending a lot of time just listening to myself talk, throw me some questions. I've got puzzles up here. As Ken said, I'm glad to stick around and talk about it. But any general questions or general thoughts? Or you just all want to get out of here? Okay, here's the last thing I'll leave you with. Don't let a yellow yield sign keep you from seeing the opportunities for the future. They're really out there and they're fantastic. Thank you.
Thanks, Steve.
The yellow yield sign?
Yeah.
I think most people said yellow because of the stoplights. I think
Red, yellow,
that's
green.
a paradigm.
You know what? He said that most people said yellow because of the stoplights. I've got to tell you, most people, because I do this all the time, if I do this in a group with mostly under 30s, they get it right. They know the answer. Most older, let's say, mature adults, I it's really tough, because, I keep telling people I'm 39, but my son's 40, so it just doesn't work anymore. But most adults who learn to drive with yellow yield signs, you never take any test again. You see it in your mind's eye, even though it's not there.
I can't even visualize.
Yeah, here's the other thing, snowmobile trails, hiking, cross-country skiing, any outdoor.
Okay,
those are all
so
your
here's, let me just
Oh,
say.
sure.
Listen,
You're rationalizing why we're so
okay.
bad.
I was gonna say rationalization or excuses,
Yeah.
but the thing is, this is how powerful they are. You can't believe that you're wrong on such a simple thing, and it makes you feel like.
No, I believe I'm wrong, but
But,
you're just like, all right.
Yes, well, that's good. Your students, you can't use that on your students, because they know they're red and white. That's how they learn to drive. They will not make a mistake. But if you want to try it on older adults, 90% of them get it wrong. They just do. So have fun teaching. I love this. I wish I could have made a living at this my whole life. But doing it now, it is a great adventure, and I appreciate what all of you've done, because if you weren't there and started all this, I wouldn't have this great opportunity. So that's about 5 minutes early. Are we okay?
We're good. Thanks, guys. If you want to hang. So appreciate it.
You're so darn, you want to take a picture or two.